Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Strong, Grounded, Unstoppable podcast, the podcast for women who are done just coping and are really ready to start listening as well. That would be good, please. And I do love the fact that we have fabulous people to listen to. And today I am super happy to welcome the gorgeous Jules Hawkins. Now, Jules is a fabulous worker for other people. I knew her from the Single Mums Business Network, and she worked tirelessly to develop a support system for single mums, including creating and editing a proper magazine that Jules went out into the supermarkets, did it? It went out all different places. So welcome. It is absolutely joyous to have you here, darling.
Oh, thank you, Susie. It's so lovely to be here. And thank you for holding this space. I think as women, we can be so disconnected. So it's healthy to talk and it's healthy to listen. And I think we help each other grow and feel supported that way, don't we?
Very, very much so. And it's, most of us have been through challenging times. I think for very few people, women, life is a charmed existence, and there are all sorts of challenges that we face, and some find it more challenging than others to go through, sometimes adversity, sometimes harrowing times, but most of the time I'm very glad to say we come through. But for those who struggle, that's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why I'm doing my Master Mental Toughness, Resilience and Self-Worth program, which I'm launching in October. And that's why I have a life's purpose to chat with people like you, because we all learn from other people and we're all comforted by the fact that actually we're not alone. So, and this is a non-threatening environment as well. And we're not going to sit here moaning and bemoaning what we went through. We're going to say, what we've learnt from it. And we also have a few giggles along the way. So, Jules, may I please start by asking you a little bit about your childhood? What sort of impact did your parents and family life have on you? Begin where you feel you would like to, please.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Thanks, Susie. I think it's fair to. It's interesting, though, what you say about not complaining. So with the Single Mums Business Network, for me, that was never about complaining. It was just about tackling issues. I always felt so lucky to be a mum. There was so much just pray for that alone. So for me, that network was never about complaining or moaning. It was about, okay, this is our situation, and this is what we need to do to
get on with it.
To get on with it, and just there are a few barriers that shouldn't exist. So yeah, I really like that you mentioned that. So of course, you know me, I had to pop that in there. Going back to childhood, I had a very happy childhood. And as far as I can remember, I grew up in a single parent family, and mum was always dancing and singing, and there was music. Our household was one of sort of love and happiness. We'd be doing housework with the music on a Sunday morning, and we'd sit down on a Friday night with a big. We didn't have much money, but we'd have a big duvet over me and my mum and my sister, and we'd have a bowl of sweets. It was a treat on a Friday night. And we'd watch a movie. Of course, we had to get up to physically dial the dial on the little black and white television that we had. So it wasn't. I think it's so easy to forget that the life then wasn't like it is now. There was no remote control, no Netflix, no. And I think even it wasn't until I was a teenager that we got a VCR and was able to go to Blockbuster to rent a video.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes. Yeah, the core memories, the younger memories, were very much. And I think there was a really nice sort of community feel to that, because when you went to school on a Monday, everybody had watched the same thing on a Friday night and a Saturday night and could talk about it. Because that was the movie that was on ITV, mainly, before Watershed. So it's kind of the 7 p.m. family movie. And it was lovely because we all had that sense of familiarity and similarity. And also, because we didn't have any internet, social media, we weren't being fed how other people lived, what other people's homes looked like,
Oh,
what other
Lord,
people
yes.
were doing, what holidays they were having, what
Mm,
days out we were missing. We
mm,
just knew our world. And the
mm,
only time we knew of family holidays were when we'd have a visit and they'd pick out a little envelope with physical photos in and say, oh,
mm,
look where we went
mm.
4 months ago.
Actually,
And
I
there was,
love this. I can remember this. And
yeah,
actually, in a way, those were the days of simplicity, and I think far less stress and pressure on children to match up, Oh, it's just hard for them
definitely.
nowadays.
So hard. Yeah, it was so much nice. I'm so glad I've lived in both worlds.
Yes,
Really
yes.
glad I've had
Mm,
both those
mm,
experiences. And I think mainly for the parents too,
mm,
because I think the pressure on parents now to
mm,
see what other parents are doing with their children,
mm,
and they feel like they're failing their children. And the children still have the innocent minds that we had as children.
mm,
They don't actually care so much what's out there. They don't feel like they're
mm,
missing. As
mm,
long as they play and they're happy and they're
mm.
loved, that really is it. It's the
Absolutely. Mm.
parents that are seeing that, oh, we're not keeping up with the Joneses with what they're doing. And I think,
Yes, and that pressure on them is so sad.
yeah,
And then it can, as you with the Single Mums Business Club, it can cause real problems, whether they are saying no or whether they're going, oh well, and putting themselves into some form of credit challenge or whatever. And as I said earlier to you, for me, the best thing, having spoken to lots and lots of women and found out what early families like, the best thing that parents can do is for their children is to love each other, because everything comes from that
yeah,
and it makes a huge difference. So yeah,
yeah.
thanks.
It
That's a
does.
lovely picture, Julie. So what happened, as you were growing up and then time went on for you to start to begin to be independent?
Well, I think those core kind of the core experiences are what enable me to see what is damaging now.
Yeah.
So for me, a brilliant coping mechanism when I first became a single mum was to unfollow most people on Facebook, for example, because I couldn't see what my family and friends were doing without me. It hurt. Um, so I knew that it didn't mean I didn't love them. I would love to see them a year later and talk to them and know what they're up to, but I didn't need it to see it every day. So
Yes,
that was a
in
great
your
coping
face, as
mechanism.
it were. Yeah.
Yeah, identifying like why is this hurting so much and knowing that there was a time that didn't happen. But really, I think with the parents, the family dynamic, Dad was gorgeous. He's not with us anymore. I lost him a couple of years ago. I loved him so much, but he was gorgeous. And unfortunately, with that came attention. So he was young when he was with Mum. I think they had us around 28, late 20s, which of course is young.
Mm.
He did break Mum's heart, shattered Mum's heart. She loved him to death, to us part. She literally meant that. But the trauma of her losing Dad was when I was younger, before those memories. Obviously, you've got the inherent memories, but
Yeah,
the memories that you actually remember.
yeah.
So I think her tears were mostly missed by me. Um, but then she did her best for us. But what happened was they managed to form this brilliant amicable relationship or friendship.
Oh, wow.
And Dad's wives and girlfriends, we would meet them, and
Yeah. How
Gwen was
strong of your mother, because she
high
did
strung.
that for you.
Oh,
Oh, oh.
without
Mm,
a doubt, she did that for us. I mean, she dated a couple of people, very, dating. It
mm,
wasn't anything untoward. We didn't have
mm,
different men in the house or anything. So she also found, I think, her strength after a few years of being apart from Dad to
mm,
sort of accept that her life was that now.
mm,
But Dad, and the best Christmas memory I had was, well, not the best. They were all great, but Dad came over with his wife at the time, or girlfriend at the time. I think Mum was dating somebody at the time, so we had both parents, their
mm,
partners,
mm,
me and my sister. It was just all normal and lovely and happy.
mm, mm,
Our
mm.
parents were both happy,
Yes.
and that is what really mattered.
Important. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, they were both happy. They weren't. going at each other. You know, I've seen it so many times over the
Oh, well,
years.
it would have been so much better if mine had parted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they
that would.
just, you know, they weren't they weren't they weren't a couple, but we
Mm,
were a family.
yeah,
Our
a
family
blended a
was
blended family,
broken.
and that's the
Absolutely.
new normal, isn't it? Now,
Yeah,
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 it really is.
yeah.
And dad was kind, you know, mum was love and laughter. But she went through so much trauma over the years. And I think this is where the resilience comes from. As an
Mm,
adult, you know, obviously dad could have done more, but he did great by me and my sister. You know, I felt so loved and he was so kind. And I
mm.
think what he really showed me is how a man should treat a woman. You know,
Yes,
a man doesn't
yes,
shout at a woman. He doesn't shout at his children. He doesn't
yes.
raise his hands to them. He doesn't
Mm,
harm them. He protects
yeah,
them. He loves
yeah.
them.
Mm.
You know, when he put his arm around me and I was the safest place in the
Oh,
world,
mm,
it
mm,
was just priceless. And
mm,
then, but with mum, I mean, we had so many traumas. She worked so hard to keep us together as a
mm,
family in our
mm.
home. We had a car accident in France, and her and my sister were in hospital for most of it.
Oh,
And then, yeah, and then she came back and she had to rebuild after having injuries. And you know, it was so traumatic. And then we had a house fire in the loft, and the house was completely gutted. And it was
oh
just, yeah, we
no.
lost everything. You know, as
Oh,
children, all we cared
yeah,
about was all our teddies and toys and things,
yeah,
clothes. We lost everything.
yeah.
Mum lost everything. You know, as an adult, you have
Mm,
things that mean more
mm.
to you, uh, really. But you know, I watched her scrubbing the walls afterwards, scrubbing the soot off the
Oh,
walls, retiling, repointing the tiles,
herself.
herself. She did. She rebuilt our house from bottom to top.
Wow.
The bricks were there, the bricks and mortar were there,
Yeah.
but you know, there was the
But
work to be
did she not have insurance to help with the costs,
I
I
don't think she
suppose?
did at the time because we were living in adversity, and as
Yeah.
anybody in adversity knows, every expense, whether it's
Yes.
£10,
Yes.
£15,
Can
it
you just cross your
goes.
fingers that,
Exactly. So I
oh,
don't think there was. I think there was a press article at the time, and I think
bless her
somebody
heart.
donated teddies to me and my sister, and
Mm,
we stayed in the local school while Mum was doing most of the work.
mm,
The
mm.
caretaker let us stay
Wow.
in. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, so much. But you know, I watched this woman. I watched her put the music on, and I watched after every knock we had. Um, she made it right again
Mm,
because you
mm.
do or you die, don't you?
Yes.
So that was a really good sort of starting point, and I think
Mm,
that both of those things really embedded in me. Um, you get knocked down, you get back up again, and love and
yes.
kindness are all that matters.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
And also, what an example of resilience your mother gave. Hard as though it might have been inside, and however alone she might have felt inside, she had that because that was the most important thing, a home for her children.
oh, she did.
So
She's
how
just
how how old were you when? Because you started working from quite a young age, didn't you? Did those circumstances sort of push you to go out there and start earning an income to be able to help out?
it was a few things. There was knowledge that there wasn't extra money flying around, but it wasn't just that. I felt ready, you know, and I think as a society, you know, the education system, you know, being an Aspie female as well, you get to a point in life when you're
Sorry,
just,
Jules, an Aspie
oh,
female.
sorry, Aspie is what Asperger's, you know, we have those traits. So
Ah,
we call
I've not
ourselves
heard it
Aspie
shortened.
females.
I like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just Aspie. It's quite a sort of
yeah, it's
positive.
Aspie.
Yes,
It's
it's
positive.
like I had a wonderful podcast recording with Kwesi Jamera, and he describes himself as neurospicy.
Neurospicy, I like that.
And isn't that wonderful? So Aspie or Neuros, that's brilliant. Okay, so Aspie. So I didn't realise you had that. It's never apparent,
Oh,
but so
I don't try to, well, I think, you know, there's another book I wrote in 2016 called Finding Happiness and Freeing Your Spirit. And a label thing is because most things are labeled as um, uh, oh my goodness, most things are labeled as a disorder. And
yes,
actually, I think we say
and
more
with
a
negative
disorder.
impacts, tones.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not a disorder. We've all got different traits and we've all
Yeah.
got different DNA and different genes and different chromosomes. And
Mm.
some people have got 21 chromosomes. And, you know, I don't like being sort of having that animal instinct and knowing that you're meant to hibernate in winter is also called a disorder, and it's got the SAD label, sad, and it's actually, well, you're just really in tune with nature, and
Yes,
when you're supposed
yes,
to hibernate and
yes, and
slow
rest and
down.
recuperation
Yeah, so there are so many things that anything that carries kind of a disorder kind of
has a
connotation.
label.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did try. It's good to have the label. It's good to understand how you tick, because of course it drove me mad when I was little, because there were certain things that I just didn't want to do and that would annoy me, or that I would
Mm.
be sensitive to. And we never had that label then, so she had no
No,
idea. I just thought I was
no.
being a bit awkward at times. But it's brilliant as an adult, and it means my brain can get into incredible zones and smash things
Yes. Yeah.
out. But anyway, we've completely digressed. We was going somewhere with that, wasn't
You
we?
were, we were going to work
Oh, work.
at
So
an
yeah,
early age.
I was just ready. I was 40. I would find school pretty pointless. Most of the lessons were irritating to me, because they weren't working with my brain. I
Yeah.
knew what I liked, I knew what I didn't like, and
Mm.
I felt like I knew where I was going. So at the weekends, I didn't want to sit around at home. I was completely restless.
Mm.
So it made sense to get out to work and earn some money. And
Mm. What age were you?
14.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so
Mm.
I was working first in the video shop after school in the evening, and then at
Mm-hmm.
the cafe at the weekends,
Mm.
Carwardines at Gloucester Docks, now
Mm-hmm.
called the Keys. So I just went to work just so that I could at least not probably ask mum for money.
Mm.
But she never expected us at that age to chip in. She struggled on her own, and she kept the
Mm.
level of that struggle quiet. She was very much parenting. And I just enjoyed that money that I earned when I was 14. I still
Mm.
went to school. Although I was brilliant at French in school. I was really very good at it. But that sounds really egotistic, but I was. And because I was working in the cafe, I completely forgot that it was my French oral that day. So, of course, I automatically failed the GCSE French, which was really
Oh.
annoying. Yeah, it
Oh.
would have been my
Top.
biggest grade, without a
Yeah.
doubt, but I automatically failed because I just
Could.
forgot I went to work.
Oh, Jules, did you retake it the next year?
They wouldn't let me. No, it was completely closed doors. They were having none of it, even though I
Oh.
went into the written and the talking and the writing, I think, there's 3 stages to it. And the other 2 I did smash, but that one that I missed,
Mm.
the shift in the cafe was going, and I did need the money, and
Yes.
um,
Well, have you used your French in later years, or
yes, I
excellent.
do.
Right. So we'll stick
Yeah.
with. So you're working in the cafe, and then did something happen when you were 17?
So when I was 16, we moved to Tenerife.
You moved to Tenerife.
Yes, mum moved us to Tenerife when I was 16.
Okay.
We went to
Why?
visit when I was 15. I think, knowing what I know now, at the time I wasn't entirely sure why. In fact, I didn't really want to go because I was focusing on dancing. Um, but I had shin splints, so there was a pause on that anyway. So we went. She took me and my sister. Now, in retrospect, I know that she was so worried about. We were losing the house. She thought as long as she could with that. We were in temporary accommodation. There was 3 of us and the dog in a 1-bedroom bedsit. There was drug dealers upstairs. We were in the roughest part.
Oh.
So she was
Yeah.
obviously really concerned about how mine and my sister's life could go at that point. So she
Mm.
thought that going abroad and getting some kind of experience over there, I think she felt that it would be safer for us,
Mm.
because the Spanish culture is better for women and children.
Yeah. But why Tenerife? Have you got one of your? Yes.
It just, mum had a friend, that's all. It was just that
Oh,
one
right.
place that said, "Oh, you
Okay.
can do it, and this is how you do it."
Okay. Okay.
And actually, we just went with a couple of months' rent up front.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's what mum managed to salvage. And then as soon as we got there, of course, I was 16. And that's what the point when we were equally liable for rent and bills. So it was
Right.
3 ways then. So I
Okay.
went immediately into adulthood as a fresh 16-year-old.
Yeah.
So I was working in a Spanish nightclub till 4 o'clock in the morning. I had a lot of
Ooh.
life experiences then.
Mm.
And I paid my fair share of rent and bills. And I was an
Mm.
adult just overnight. So that that was that. But it taught me a really good strong work ethic, because you don't have weekends and you don't have paid holidays over there. At least you didn't at the time. You know, you'd have a day off. You know, you'd work your rotas and you might have a day off each week, but you certainly wouldn't have 2 days a week. So I used to find it really crazy when people used to come over on holiday and complain that they'd only get 2 days off every weekend off, and they'd get sort of four weeks paid holiday. And I was like, why? That's like
Yes,
nutrition.
and sick pay, which you wouldn't have got out of.
Yeah,
Yes,
and also your
yeah,
medical stuff paid for, because we had to pay our own. If there is something wrong, we had to pay the doctors up front. I mean, Mum
yeah.
dived in the swimming pool and smashed her head, and we had to find the money up front before they would stitch her
Oh,
up.
crikey.
You know, so it was a very, very different experience, and it
Yes.
did give me a much more grounded appreciation of the UK system.
Yeah. Did you feel safe?
Kind of. I wasn't particularly, but I felt safer in the sense that there was a general respect towards women and children. If somebody dared to sort of hurt a woman and child on the street in the sense that they do here, you know, they would take the law into themselves, and that person wouldn't survive that act.
Wow.
However, you know, young girls were treated as women in the context of bars, and you know, so it was,
yes.
you know, it was kind of, but walking down the street, I felt safer than I did kind of as a 16-year-old in an adult environment. But yeah, you know, it's not here. People get away with everything here, don't they? You know, but over there, no. If you did what you did here to a woman and a child, then all the men, Spanish men, wouldn't. You know, you wouldn't live to tell the tale.
Yeah.
So
how long were you in Tenerife?
8 years in total.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you come back on your own?
I did. I came back a couple of times on my own. I went back again because, of course, my mum and my sister were still there, and I missed them. But I did keep trying to come home. I wanted to come home.
Yes.
You know, I sort of had a relationship with a Welsh singer, and we spent 3 years in Wales. That when I first left properly after the 8 years.
Yes.
And then I lived in London for a short time, and then I lived kind of all over the UK. Because I kind of had no base then.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, and there was no home to go back to. And so I think that's where the hardship really started, is then you're having to borrow money to pay rent up front, or to buy, you're just having to borrow money for everything, to live and just to sort of get from A to B. And you know, and one salary, and of course in Tenerife your rent includes all bills. So it's a real shock to come back here and think, oh, I can afford that as salary rent. And then you realise you've got council tax and the electricity.
Everything. Water, rates, everything.
It's a shock. Yeah, it's a shock. Very differently ran here. So that was a real shock. So I was in hardship pretty much as soon as I got back. There was no steady ground. You know, I was waiting from the minute I landed back in this country.
Okay. No steady ground. And that's exhausting.
Yeah, it was exhausting. So I was then quite depressed. You know, I think we talked about it, didn't we, before, in my 20s as a young woman. I'd experienced and seen things that shook me to the core. If you've ever seen the movie called Powder,
no,
I highly recommend anybody to watch it.
Powder.
You know, Powder. And I don't want to spoil it by saying anything about the story, but it's profound. Any man or woman should watch it.
Okay, well, thank you.
I felt like I carried that level of. I'm an empath anyway, of course.
Yes.
So this natural curly hair that's not curly now. It gives off this kind of human Wi-Fi. It's very sensitive to everything around. So I was feeling the pain of the universe and seeing people hurting each other, and I just felt really kind of the pain of managing financially, the pain of losing people you loved, and there was too much pain, I think, at that time, and I didn't know how to process it properly.
Had you had your daughter by this time?
No, so I had my daughter later at 35. Wow. I was late then, and I didn't want to bring a child into the world because I'd already felt, A, I wanted to keep the child safe, B, I wanted to give the child really, really secure grounding, concrete concrete floor to to sort of escalate from. So I was very anti being a mum unless I had very, very good means to sort of
Yes. Yes.
bring a child into
Yes.
this world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was quite lost in my sort of
Mm.
20s. I
Mm.
was quite a lost human being. That was difficult, but it was almost it it gave me a lot of experience in terms of work because I was bouncing around from job to job because of course going to
And
Tenerife.
keeping on. I mean, you never just sat down and gave up. You just, and that's, like your mum, she never just sat down. I mean,
Yeah,
we women, when something awful comes to us, we might sit down and weep for a while, but then we go, okay, and we get up again,
yeah.
and get going. And I think so. When did you have your dance? Was that later? I'll let you tell the story, darling.
Oh no, it's
So
okay. It's also
you had the hardships of trying to fund a single lifestyle with no support.
yeah,
So were you on any form of you were in the UK
yeah.
with any form of benefits?
No, I wasn't the slightest bit interested in applying for benefits. The thing is, as a single woman, there was nothing from stopping me from working. I had an able body and an able mind.
Yes.
There was nothing stopping me
Hmm.
from working.
And a good
And it
work ethic.
good work ethic. There was no restrictions. It didn't matter whether I needed to work at 7 a.m. or 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. There were no barriers to work. And I think this is where my passion comes from. I was able to work, so I worked. I
Hmm.
think benefits are designed to support people who have a genuine reason for not being
Yeah.
able,
Yeah.
whether it's not being able
Able.
to
Yeah.
body, able
Yeah.
minds, or other physical
Yeah.
barriers,
Yeah.
which of course we had with childcare. So I worked and paid my taxes very, very proudly for a solid 20 years in the UK and some abroad. And, and I always knew that there was my tax was taken every month. All of that money you pay and you entrust
Mm.
it to central government to
Mm.
distribute as they see fit.
Yeah.
And some of that was distributed by benefits to those who needed
Mm-hmm.
help. And I never judged that or had an issue
Mm.
with that. It was fine. And I had I was just going from job to job. The thing is, because I went abroad at 16 and I didn't have a career path, a solid
Right.
career path at
Mm. Mm.
university.
Makes it
I was,
harder.
I was a bit
Mm.
sort of lost about, and I already felt I was approaching 30. I felt like it was too late for many things. And of course, that's where, when Kaylin came along, my daughter, I'd managed to buy a house. It was a Northern
Wow.
Rock, 100%,
Yeah.
no deposit, and with the
Yeah.
help of a friend. So we had two salaries. He
Yeah.
literally just put his name on it to help me get it. So I managed to get a mortgage by means in my late 20s.
Mm.
I then met my husband um, in my late 20s as well. I mean, and he was great, he was my
Mm.
best friend and we were inseparable for
Mm.
sort of the 7 years.
Oh,
And he moved into the house and we were paying that mortgage together. And that was all sort of,
life was
uh,
good.
yeah, it was okay. I
Yeah.
went well. Life was good. I was definitely socially acceptable.
Right.
We had a house that we owned. We had two cars. We had two cats. We were a tick box on paper. Nobody was, you
Jules,
know.
is that a feeling that comes from within you, that those things gave you social acceptability? Or was it it was like in wherever you lived, is that you felt, you know, that you were not before you had all of those things because there was evidence that you were not. Was that a feeling from inside? Because you are
I,
beautiful and articulate, and you are socially acceptable. But was it all of that package? You had the package that made you feel properly socially acceptable,
I think I felt socially accepted. I felt like I was just doing what was expected of you through life.
right?
So we have social, not conforming,
Social norms.
social norms. Yeah, you meet somebody, you get married, you settle down, you start a family. So I think I was just conforming to social norms. But as I was getting further into, like I said, he was my best friend, there's nothing wrong with him. But the deeper I was getting into that, the unhappier I actually was.
Okay.
So I was, and I hadn't learned, there were certain learned behaviours I hadn't unlearned about how to express your frustration and your anger.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that I was quite an angry 30-year-old,
Okay.
you know, and if I was angry or frustrated, upset, my husband would get it in the neck. You know, I wasn't a great wife because I didn't know how to sit down and articulate what it was that was going on in my head or my world, my frustrations with work, I didn't have a sense of purpose, a sense of self. Obviously, I wasn't doing the dancing. I was my dream and my ambition when I was younger. So I was lost, and he got that in the neck, and we would go out drinking just to be sociable, and you know, and so that was that. But it was the real turning points, which I think is a question you wanted to ask. So should I just flow straight into that? The turning point was my husband had hydrocephalus. He'd had it, you know, obviously since he was very young, but it came back with a vengeance. And so we'd got married, and even though I was really apprehensive about bringing a child into the world, I was thinking, okay, you know, we've been together 7 years, we love each other, we're getting married, now's the time, so let's do that. So married, immediately pregnant, and then literally within the space of about 12 weeks, he was called back into the hospital. The surgeon looked at the back of his brain and said, right, we need to operate on this now, otherwise you're looking at blindness or sudden death.
Hydrocephalus, what exactly does that mean, Jules,
So
please?
that's a swelling on the brain. So you've got excess fluid in your brain, and it's pushing normal fluid on the brain. So normally you have shunts fitted from your brain that would drain the fluids into your...
poor chap. Yeah.
So the shunt had stopped working. It happened when he was 16.
Okay.
So this was really scary, and at the same time I bled and I was miscarrying the child, and they were it was just really, really awful. And he'd been made redundant from work, and so it was really traumatic. It was genuinely very traumatic.
One thing after another.
Yeah, well, I went into hospital with him, and I had a blade on me, and I thought, if he doesn't survive this operation, if him and my child are both on the other side, then I'm going to go and be with them.
Oh my goodness,
because
bless you.
At that point I really didn't feel like life was, it wasn't like, but that was a real turning point. So he came through the operation, and I was so pleased he survived. A lovely guy, really, really happy that he lived. But also for me, it was like a bit of a rebirth as well. So then I was going to see a counsellor to deal with the miscarriage and to deal with, these. I knew something was wrong. Because I was getting angry all the time.
Yeah.
And she was just fantastic. And she was the one that helped me to see that I was perhaps conforming, and that perhaps I could just, find who I was. So in that very quick space of time, I decided that I wasn't meant to be a wife, and I wasn't meant to be a mother, and I wasn't meant to be conforming, and I wasn't, I could just go off and be this kind of rock and roll, chick I wanted to be, and get Harley Davidson and just drive through America. So she gave me permission to just, wipe the slate clean.
Because so the anger was coming from the fact that you'd actually conformed so much that you'd suppressed who you really are deep down.
I'd completely suppressed.
That's a lesson to many of us.
Yeah. I was being polite, and I was being kind, and I was being, that kindness was genuine, but I was just being a good girl, I think. I didn't want to be a good girl.
But you are a lovely woman. There's no getting away from that, Jules. I mean, look at you, and when you hear you talk. So you and your husband parted ways.
Yeah.
With no child.
With no child.
Right.
Yeah. So it was through the circumstances I still don't divulge completely, but let's just say that at 35 I was thinking, okay, I'm not going to have a child. Anyway, the universe had different ideas, whoever you interpret the universe to be. So of course along came Kaylin, And I was like, oh, hang on a minute, I know this feeling. What's going on here? So yeah, so all of a sudden there was this child. I was like, oh wow, I'm going to be a mum, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a mum on my own. You know, that was very, very clear from the beginning. So I was immediately in love then with this newborn child, unborn child. This fetus is whatever. You know, she was a couple of weeks. I was just in love with it, not knowing it was a boy or a girl, and I was a mother from that moment on. And my focus was providing for this child.
She was your raison d'etre, wasn't she?
Absolutely.
Very, very much so.
Absolutely.
And so you then were back on your own, needing to survive or thrive, hopefully, with a baby. What did you do then?
Well, so many things. So the timeline, of course, this starts again. So whereas in my 20s, I felt like it was too late to go to university, too late to start a career path, too late for all of those things. All of a sudden, it wasn't too late, because I thought, right, if I start now, I'll have all of this by the time she's 5, and have all of this by the time she's 10. And it was on her time scale and not mine. So nothing felt too late.
Right.
So I signed up to do the law degree.
Law degree, okay.
Yes. Yeah, first things first is I wanted to make sure that
Talk about wanting to go from a rock chick on a Harley Davidson to...
Well, I was in love.
Well, so it wasn't just your hormones, though, that sort of did a big about turn.
I mean, now she's getting older, we still talk about, like, baby, should I get a Harley now? Do you want to go on the back of the Harley? And let's go. And I'm older, that's still kind of there somewhere.
Well,
so
wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, but at that point, you know, I thought, okay, now I need to do the mum thing, and I need to make sure that I provide for this child.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just working. I did the law degree so that my long-term career prospects were better and my income prospects were better. I certainly didn't want her to have any hardship on the back of our status. And then of course, I'll speed this up because I'm really aware that we're just going through time like better. Through becoming a single mum, what I didn't realise is that childcare wasn't adequate, and that was the massive thing that completely changed my life and inspired the SMBN and everything. Just not being able to get that childcare, and then just not being able to get my employer to give me the flexible working to fit inside the childcare that was available. All of that was so huge because I wanted to keep working full time.
Yes.
I still wasn't interested in benefits. I wanted to be self-sufficient, take care of my daughter, use childcare. I had no intent. So then, of course, that came crashing down. Childcare, no, sorry, we're not open till 6:30. Work, no, sorry, you can't leave at 5. You know, and it's like, oh, why? So anyway, so then I'm desperately looking for part-time work. And then you realise there's 780,000 equally strong candidates, all wanting the same role.
All with so much to give.
Oh, yeah. So that's it then. It's like, wow, it's really hard to get, you know, adequate work. So I ended up with a part-time job that was only 16 hours. Of course, you can't survive on 16 hours. It's minimum wage. So I needed to apply for benefits. I was like, well, I don't know how to do this. Like, nobody tells you. So I just, I needed to apply for that. And then, you know, in a very quick sort of space of time, I think probably in the space of that first year, the house that I owned was repossessed. All of a sudden, I was a single mum, completely ruined credit score, house repossession, private rental, on benefits. Society just assumed, and then you get all the hate speech online. Oh, you shouldn't have kids if you can't afford them. Oh, you're just work shy. Oh, this is a lifestyle choice. Oh, you know, and the hate is rife.
Oh, God.
You know, and it's just awful.
And this is all because you actually successfully did a law degree because you thought it out that this could give you the best opportunity to have a good income, to support your child and support yourself. Couldn't find childcare that fitted around your job. And, you know, if only people would realise that not everybody is a sharker, you know. Exactly. Right. Okay. So then you had the idea for Single Mums Business Network?
Well, no, so that was after. So I think that kind of 5-year period was an absolute whirlwind of survival and, you know, and feeling then like underneath people's shoes and realizing that I was,
Mm.
all of that stigma, all of that shame, all of that, trauma, all of that moving I had to keep
Mm.
moving,
Mm.
and then I designed the Keybed pregnancy cushion. So I thought, okay, if I'm not able to bring in the income through work, then I'll do it through business, and I'll bring
Mm.
this to end. It was
Mm.
to get it a market ready product, bring it to the market.
Oh yes, of course.
Yes, the
Yes.
Keybed, yeah.
Yes.
But of course, I was doing it in adversity with no access to credit, no access to
So
finance,
you're an inventor as well.
an inventor as
And
well.
so
Yeah,
briefly tell us about the Keybed, because I remember that's when I first met you, when you were being awarded for
that's
it.
right. Exactly.
Yes.
So yeah, so I designed the Keybed, and it literally took me months to even come up with £60 to have the first cover made. And I was eating beans on toast at the same time, and it was real adversity. And then once I had a market ready product, I needed to be really confident. So I had all the British Standards health and safety testing. I'd sent one, even though it took me months and months and months to pay for it. I'd sent it to be incinerated just so that it could pass the furniture and fire safety.
Yes.
And that was like
Well
heartbreaking. I felt like I
done.
burned my whole year's money. It was just awful.
Oh,
And then I had
wow.
to make another one to present to the Pregnancy Foundation
And
to help
what was
people.
this Keybed?
It's a pregnancy cushion.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a firm foam cushion that you can lay on prone, which is on your belly.
Mm.
So second and third trimesters, when bump's too big and you want to lay on your belly, you can use the Keybed, and you can just flunk in it, and
Oh,
bump and breasts pop
and the
inside.
comfort.
Lovely.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, really wonderful. So, and it was successful, and it did. I sold them nationally, internationally, Spain, Australia, America,
Well
France,
done.
UK, to loads of therapists. It's therapists that use it to
Yeah.
massage their clients on their back,
Yeah.
and they're all over the place. So that was a few years then, but of course I was really still surviving on the money of that, so it didn't make me wealthy or anything like that.
Mm.
And that inspired the Single Mums Business Network, because I thought, I can't be the only one who's facing all of this stigma, but actually has a really strong work
Mm.
ethic, wasn't a lifestyle choice, who's been married, divorced,
Mm.
paid taxes most of their life. And I thought, I can't be the only one, and was so frustrated with the fact that it was just that inability to have flexible working that stopped me from earning that
Yeah.
full-time
Yeah.
in the first place. So that inspired the Single Mums Business Network, and I just put it out on social media. Anybody out there that resonates, and of course that came alive.
Floodgates were opened.
Yeah, but I won a lot of awards with the Keybed. I won Excellence in Marketing with the Guardian newspaper in
Wow.
2014, and I won the Federation of Holistic Therapists Excellence in Innovation in 2015. We met through one of the business awards that I had, so I had quite a few awards through the business networks, the local
Yes.
ones and national
Yes.
ones. But the Guardian and the Federation of Holistic Therapists, they really gave me the confidence to sort of be
Yes.
proud of my product.
Recognition.
The
And
recognition.
by a big group. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Mm.
And that's another thing I really wanted to give back through the Single Mums Business Network. I thought that recognition is so
Mm.
important.
Mm.
And I
And
knew
you were brilliant at doing that through the Single Moms Business Network. And you were so kind, to me when I had so little money. I was able to join in and engage. And then the year that I was awarded jointly Resilience Warrior. And I
yeah,
remember when I came up on stage and gave a very short speech. And I came down off the stage, and this is important actually, because when I was walking back towards my chair, you said to the room, it's a black tie event, so obviously I had makeup on, and you said to the room, "I'm sorry, Susie, but looking at Susie, you would never think she'd been through so much in her life." And I remember just saying, "Oh, it's makeup." But actually, there's no protection or no wall up around people, women who've had, what's the right word? They've had a good upbringing, a privileged upbringing
yeah,
with what can happen. There's no protection, and there's no class protection against domestic abuse either. because I've had every kind of domestic abuse, and that's all with what goes on inside you, and what your lack of self-worth allows to attract and to happen to you. So you having that incredible network of women supporting women and giving those awards was absolutely superb, Jules. And you once said to me when I was up for this, she said, never underestimate the inspiration you give to others. And I hope you never underestimated the level of support and heroism that you gave as the founder of Single Mums Business Network, because it was key, I think, at that time to so many women. So, thank
Yeah.
you and well done.
Oh, that really means a lot. And, just hearing you say that, I worry so much about our community that's still struggling out there.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. And it's so true. I think there was a very, very, it obviously gave me some insight to help others, but it was a heartbreaking situation where a woman, a girl who I was very jealous of in Tenerife, she was young, beautiful. She was my friend, but she was a bit slimmer than me. Her hair was a bit longer than mine. Her smile was a bit wider than mine. Her background was a bit more privileged. She had a great job. And I was so jealous of her. I really was. And also the first boy that I fell in love with, she ended up dating him too after he dumped me.
Oh,
Yeah, it really was. I was so jealous of her. But a few years later, I learned that she'd taken her own life.
oh,
So I know, and that was
you
for
just
me,
never know.
you just never know. And I think that really sort of gave me the catapult of thinking, well, you don't know by looking at somebody what's going. You don't know
No,
by how pretty they are, or
nope,
by how you
nope.
cannot, assume
Mm-mm.
to look at somebody and know that's the
Oh,
person who's
everything's all right for that. In fact,
okay.
there's a sort of stage where almost subconsciously, when I never wanted to be anybody else but me, however hard. Because what's the point of wishing you could be somebody else? So just never went there. But I think I did go through, well, it's okay for them because they're married or because they've got this and actually we are the creators of our own destiny, but the impact of what we go through, does have impact. And I actually want to look up the difference between the word jealous and envious, because I wonder if you were envious of her and
Mm.
not jealous of her. I'm going to look up that. But I wanted to ask you another question, Jules, coming on from the Single Mums Business Network. Oh, I know. Within that, when you were still doing that, you were campaigning. You'd written the book, Breaking Out of Benefits Jail, and I hope you've got a copy to hand. But you actually went to see, there we are, we'll talk about that in a minute. You went to see Richie Sunak.
Yeah.
And tell us about that episode, because it wasn't what you were quite cross afterwards, weren't you?
Oh, I was so furious. I mean, I was livid, actually. I was
Okay,
shaking.
you were I'll wipe out quite cross. She was livid.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, I just knew, when somebody just doesn't quite understand, don't you? And I really didn't want him to be our leader, because I felt like a lot of people said he had so much wealth he couldn't possibly understand what it was like to live on a breadline. And we didn't vote him in, as simple as that. So
Mm.
I had 6 years I was doing this Single Mums Business Network. And like you said, the magazine, I'll try and reach for one. I've got one here, but I'll probably knock everything flying if I do, so I won't. It's still online though.
Mm.
I'd spent years, I was sending the magazine to, all of the broadcasters, the TV studios, the radio studios, the prime ministers, the members of parliament, they were sent. I was getting that magazine in front of every person
Wow.
and it was to gain exposure for the members, because that was what it was about, helping them
Yeah.
gain exposure that wasn't otherwise
Yeah.
affordable. But B, it was telling them that the stigma shouldn't exist, that the barriers are real, the flexible working, the barriers to finance are real, the barriers to homes are real because there's discrimination. I was an estate agent. I know it is true.
Yeah.
You know, and I was saying
Childcare.
exactly, the childcare. And I was basically trying to explain to them the economic, you know, benefit of removing those barriers, because it wasn't the people choosing benefits. The benefits were a result of those barriers.
Yes.
That needed to be
Yes.
gone. The high private rents, the lack of flexible working,
Yeah.
that was the benefits. That was the public tax strain, you know, and who actually received that. So I was
a little bit of female common sense then.
Exactly. And it's common sense. And everybody, you know, we all know it, don't we? Anyway, so frustrating. Maybe I will run for Prime Minister, I don't know. But so of course, when I went to meet Rishi, when he and Liz were sort of doing the rounds, sort of saying about why they would be the best person for the job, when they decided to squeeze Boris out, I just I was sat there in the audience. I was uncomfortably close. I was in the front row, and because
where Houses of Parliament, or where did you go to meet with them?
No, so this was raw. So when they were campaigning, when they were trying to convince everybody to vote for them, they went to all of these different localities all over the UK.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, in the bigger cities, it was big, busy halls, but rural, where we are, it was a small hall, and there was probably about 100 seats. So it was a very, very intimate affair, which was fantastic. I'm a paid member of the Conservative Party and of the Labour Party. It's only £5 a year each or something, just because I like to get the invites. That's me caring and sharing how you know about these things.
Brilliant.
Just become a member.
Okay, never knew that. Thanks, Jules.
Yeah, get the emails and the invites.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they'll hate the fact that I'm a member of both. But there's a means to an end. And anyway, I was sat there. I was in the front row. And because I wanted to make sure I was seen, I had the Single Mums Business Network magazine in front of me like this. I'm like, you will see this.
Yes.
And but because he was there with his microphone and he was so close, if the cameraman had got the right angle, you know, you could have made a whole headline story out of that. It was awful. But what he did was he was basically saying, as part of his speech, not basically saying, he actually said as part of his speech, that he wanted to deal with, you know, those people who went to food banks, and he wanted to either upskill them or encourage them into work, those people who were needing food banks and benefits. So of course I put my hands up and I took the mic, and this is how I know I was livid. I was feeling palpitations and blood rushing through my veins. I've never felt anything like it before. And I'd said to him, Rishi, you don't understand. It's your NHS workers, people who are skilled and working, that are using food banks.
Firemen, policemen, yes, I think.
Exactly. You know, and he said, no, it's not. He actually completely denied it. And I said, Rishi, it is. I said, these are working families, skilled working families needing food banks. Anyway, in the end, I managed to have a one-to-one private conversation with him, and I gave him the magazine, and I'd made notes in it, and I made him to promise to read it, because I was always trying to sort of get this change.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of conservative people in the room who did thank me afterwards for saying what I'd said about working people. People, and again, this goes back to what we just said about how you look. You can look privileged, you can look well kept, you can be well dressed, you can be smart, you can have makeup. I don't know how long you've had your makeup. I've had mine about 4 years. You can experience hardship and still look like you don't experience hardship. You can be living, you can buy food on credit cards and look like
you can literally mask it and put a brave face on.
You could be working full time, you know, or working as much as you possibly can with whatever, sorry, fix my French, with your, you know, with your abilities. So there were people in the room who looked and spoke very conservatively, and they really thanked me for sort of arguing that point with him.
Yeah.
And I did say to him in my letter, I said, look, please don't run this country. Please do something. He's got 2 daughters. And I said, you've got all the wealth in the world and you've got 2 daughters. I said, please put your time and energy into protecting our girls and women online and offline.
Bravo, you. Yeah.
He didn't listen to me.
No. No, you tried. Well, thank you for trying on behalf of mothers and daughters, because there's still such a long way to go. And, this is my life's purpose and passion. And a little bit at a time, if we chip away and do, what we can do best. So your book, Breaking Out of Benefits Jail, and then after that, I think
We'll have to.
we'll say goodbye for today, but come back on again. So that book is designed to what? Hold it up again, darling. Yes, brilliant.
So the Single Mums Business Network, I put my time and energy for 6 years into sort of giving everything I knew about marketing, about which agencies do flexible working, about avoiding scams where people are getting you to work for free on commission only, about private rents, about how many empty properties are out there being let for Airbnbs, about corporations who evade tax. And I just talk about so many things. Breaking Out of Benefits Jail is, for me, Breaking Out of Benefits Jail was the best thing I could do. Once I experienced that world, it was so degrading and so humiliating, and I was so judged. For me, through a mixture of enterprise and flexible working, I broke away from it. I didn't pick up the phone. I emailed and said, "Thank you, I don't need you anymore." And I felt independent and free again, and I felt like I could hold my head up high again, and I wasn't ashamed of needing them. I was pushed into needing them. And in here I talk about making peace with why you're on them. Is it really your fault? But you can get out of them too. So through 6 years, I kind of focused my energy on doing that through webinars and one-to-one with members. When the Single Mums Business Network was clearly coming to a natural end, I thought I still need to help my community. So the book's just on Amazon. And it's just, the aim is to help people find a way to get back on their feet financially, emotionally.
Does it give you clues about how it's possible, if it's possible, not to go there in the first place? I've been on benefits, and housing benefits, and that was a complete and utter lifesaver for me. And now I'm old enough now to have my pension, although I've pretty much all my life been self-employed. I paid my national insurance, so I've got my full pension, which is amazing. But I was going to ask about, so that, does the book give you ideas on, if there's another way round your circumstance of yeah.
Towards in the book, so the I won't read out all of the content.
Can you send me a screenshot of that or something, Jules?
Oh, of course,
yeah.
It gives the state very easy ways to remove the benefits bill in the UK completely. It's in their power, because the benefit.
Why don't they do it then? Is it so that they can keep people down in a certain way, or controlled in a certain way, or what's it all about?
There's a vested interest there. So a lot of the way benefits are needed are through people who are invested in those, the angles of where benefits are needed. So, for example, it could be not capping the private rents. It could be the minimum wages. There are lots of ways that people in government wouldn't want to see. I mean, we've heard it. We've heard people talk negatively about people working from home in government. There are lots of employers in the Lords. There are lots of landlords, in government. There are lots of people who don't have an interest in reducing, the rent caps, or in, promoting working from home, so that you don't need to worry about the childcare. There's a lot of reasons why they're not doing it, but it is certainly doable. I mean, we do not need a 2.97 billion, whatever it is, benefits bill. We just don't need it. It's a man-made problem.
Nearly 3 billion a year. And this is partly to do with a lack of fundamental human integrity around doing things right.
There are lots of organisations that are very happy to outsource remote working to other countries where they get their labour for £2 an hour. But when you're talking about outsourcing your labour in this country, where you have to pay the minimum wage, they suddenly feel like remote working isn't necessarily what their company needs.
Well, but also you look after your own, don't you?
You should.
Yeah.
You
Well,
should.
yeah. What was I going to ask you about? We're talking about the benefits, and give us another incredible factoid, Jules, whilst I get this question back into my head.
I think just a couple of things that I sort of noted down is, you really need to understand that only you can stop you. You really can. Time zones, taking your life in 5-year blocks. You might have very real barriers now. But you can change your life every 5 years. You can retrain completely. When you're 50, you can spend a year or 3 years completely retraining in something and spend the next 20 years of your career doing what you love, whether that's through self-employment or employment. There are lots of
Why
of
when
things.
you're 50? Is it because are there grants?
No, sorry, you can do that at any stage in your life, but because I know this podcast is geared towards us ladies who are reaching 50,
yes, of course,
I'm just saying it's not. I mean, I'm 50 next year, and I'm going to be relaunching my dance in time for my 50th, because the next 20 years is very much for me about making sure that I'm true to my form. But I think so many people could feel like it's too late at 50, and then
that's one of my closing mantras. It's never too late.
No,
I'm
it really
67
isn't.
and I am really now almost ready with my program on resilience and confidence to get this out there, not just in the UK, but globally. If you've got, and I woke up this morning in such pain. My limbs were on fire. And, because of the fibro, because but actually then you just get out of bed when you can, thankfully being self-employed. And now I have my housing benefit, my pension.
Yeah.
But for the last year, I've had my gorgeous partner who we met naturally, but we'd known each other a long time ago. But life, it's never too late for life to get good. And
No,
I
it's
think
not.
that's what I would like to say. But I would also like to end, before I ask Julie to end on something, we have both been beneficiaries of the most wonderful, is it a charity?
They are a charity.
Yeah, Purple Shoots Foundation. They are ethical lenders to people like Jules and me who have got really good ideas for a business or something, but can't get loans from a bank. And it's quite a process to go through. And I remember when I went through it, you have to fill out all the forms. And darling, Mike Lewis is there to hold your hand all the way through. And I can remember you have to then go for an interview at a sort of a board table in a room. I was at one end, Mike was at the other. And there was, I think, say, a bank manager, a lawyer, and something else, quite well-educated people of some power who were there to make the judgment, really. And as I was speaking, I could see Mike's head down and he was scribbling away and nodding as I was speaking. I thought, oh, I think I must be doing all right. I will just never forget that visual for me. That obviously you probably didn't know he was doing it, but it was just, honestly, he has been such an angel, and I know he has for you. And I know that in the future you're now doing it's actually called Project Angels, but perhaps when that's really ready, come and talk about that another time. So yes, go on.
Sorry, yeah, no, we've got an event at the 15th of November at Fonman Castle, and it is something I'm really ready for people to look at the site, because I'm 100% about giving back to them, trying to raise funds. We just need to find 100 angels.
Yes,
there are plenty of businesses.
So how do people find you then, Jules?
Project 100 Angels.
Yes, and 100's in the numbers, isn't it?
The number, yeah, Project 100 Angels. You can come to the event, you can sort of sign up to be an angel. And yeah, I'm going to be kind of promoting that a lot more through September and October.
Okay.
And yeah, to give back to them, because they've been absolute lifesavers. Karen and Mike have both been absolute lifesavers. And yeah, I mean, they've picked me up off the floor on more than one occasion, because society rejects you when you look bad on paper. You're all about scores.
Well, it makes you feel, even though we are not, it makes you feel worthless
Yeah.
or unworthy. And for people like me who from experiences at primary school and at home unconsciously had feelings of inferiority and unworthiness seeping into, your being. You do all the work and then you feel worthy, but then it's things like having to go bankrupt. My business coach and mentor, quite some years ago, she said, Susie, you can't, it was a debt that was partly from an ex and da. She said, you can't keep on doing this. It's making you ill. You've got to go bankrupt. And I was so humiliated. And I cried to the woman on the end of the phone. I cried at my doctors. I cried at, in the street, probably in the bank, because that was not kind of who I was. But actually the doctor did tell me, Susie, please don't feel bad. Trump, Simon Cowell, some these people who are right up, not that I want to be lumped in the same thing as Trump. However, one lovely woman who's one of the women in my Women of Spirit book 1, Ruth, we were all at a meeting, Single Mums Business Network, who actually that's you, my darling, professional, professional women's First Ladies Professional Network. Or my brain's gone this morning, as I say. But they awarded me Advocate for Women. So Ruth was at one of the meetings and she said to me, and everybody please remember this because it's absolutely alongside what Julie's been talking about. If you've ever been through these sort of financial difficulties, or if you're going through it now, the balance of the sum in your bank balance does not equate to the sum of your worth as a human being. Those two things are not the same. You can still be so worthy as a human being and be deeply in debt. So please remember that. Going bankrupt is not some form of evil way of making money. It happens, and it happens to a lot of people. So remember that. And Jules, darling, what would you like to end our podcast with?
Oh, goodness me. I think really I want to thank you, Susie, for facilitating this podcast because, whilst I talked earlier maybe negatively about social media, the positive of it is that we can reconnect.
Yes.
And we can have these conversations.
Yes.
And that we're not enclosed in our own four walls.
Yes.
And peer pressure is profound.
Yes.
It works. So if we come together and we say no to the things that are happening and we fight for what we know is right, if we just keep banging that drum and we keep coming together and we keep supporting each other in that way, eventually the message will be heard. We're a democratic society and our voices need to be heard. Your voice is never too small to be heard. We've all got an equal right for a place at that table.
Absolutely. And that's why on this podcast I want to have guests who have been there, done it, and are helping others or really thriving, and they're a beacon and an icon and an example of how you can do it, and all the way to people who are still in it and need help and making their way step by step because they're an inspiration. Yeah. So, thank you so much for coming on. And I know it's one of our longer ones, but every sentence from Jules is a gem. So bless you, darling. And give me the links to your book and all of that sort of thing. And I'm going to stop recording and say goodbye, but stay on the line, please, Jules. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to this. I think there was a lot of important information and inspiration, I hope, in this. So if you liked it, please do like and share and subscribe. You can actually watch this on YouTube or via my website. There's a podcast page on my website. So I wish you all the very best in your endeavors. And if you have any queries or comments or questions or need some support, please get in touch. All the very best. Bye for now. Bye, Jules. Bye.